Welcome to Patriot Nightcap. I am so excited right now. Laura Eisenhower is on my show. Laura, thank you so much for coming on. We premiere every Wednesday, Sunday night, 8 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. And I'm just so thrilled right now. Laura Eisenhower, great granddaughter of Dwight D Eisenhower, 34th President of the United States, World War II hero. On June 6, 1944, D-Day, he commanded the Allied invasion of West Europe, Normandy, France. Let's just kick this off, Laura. I mean, you have so many titles. It's like healer, galactic alchemist, medical intuitive, astrologist. Like, I have to say, if I was in a play with you, if I were your sister, which I feel this sisterly connection to you, I'd be like, damn it, I want to be the galactic alchemist. It's not fair.
Oh my God, we all are is the thing. I don't know where you're finding those terms. I usually say global alchemist, but galactic alchemist is pretty cool.
Okay.
And that's exactly like what's going on right now and why that title came to me years ago. Because we are turning the lead of this human experience into gold. We're working energies on a very, very deep and profound level so that we can just move to higher earth energies, but we are the shift, right? So we have to move beyond the personality matrix and step into the soul essence so we can bring in the miracle vibration and begin to flow with greater magic and synchronicities so that we can unplug from the system in the matrix because it's inverted. It's an inverted system that is correcting itself. And in the corrections, we can't just jump from A to B without there being a transformation. And alchemy is a part of that transformation where the substance of who we are actually changes. And other terminologies for it are going like from carbon-based to crystalline as far as our physiology, but like really just the soul alchemy where we can really purify, heal, and fully awaken. So I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
But we all are doing this. So I just wanted to give it a voice and give it attention.
Right. And because of the conditioning that we've had, right? There's this sort of, we've been conditioned and there is this great awakening and people are waking up through healing. And I mean, so can you, define your role right now in these chaotic times that we're trying to navigate? Like, what would you say is your biggest role with this current chaotic timeline? Because you use words like energy healer, Mother Earth. I'm interested in like the feminine impact that you're having right now, like, and why you chose to stay, on Earth in 2006. Sorry, I didn't mean to throw like so much at you in one.
No, that's great.
Question.
Yeah, so I think you're referring to, I was recruited to go off planet. I've been pretty much targeted my whole life to pull me into a timeline that I don't want to be on. I don't think those that are pushing dark controller agendas want people like me to do our mission on the planet, because it's really about waking people up to their own personal sovereignty and truth. It's not about having all the answers or, anything like that. It's like, but how can we help a person get back to center and feel safe and empowered to just be yourself? I don't know what bio you're pulling from. I don't use those words, but if I were to identify with it, which I have in the past, so it might be an older bio, energy healer is just, to me, shifting a frequency, being the override frequency. So if a distortion is coming in, instead of absorbing that distortion and embodying that distortion, you're strong enough in your own divine center or soul to be able to kind of correct that and nullify it. So when we're dealing with any kind of weapon, because everything's being weaponized and we're dealing with dark weaponry, and dark weaponry has been impacting the planetary grid network and just everything for a really long time. And one of the weapons is the programs that come through the media, come through entertainment industries, and where it really kind of hooks in your everyday person that's just being raised in our society, going to school and this and that. So energy healing would be, okay, you don't have to be sucked into all this stuff. You can come back and have the ability to decide, what is right and what is healthy, for me. And then we can make, better choices. And one of the best examples is just like with nutrition. We're going to change our lifestyles accordingly so that we're healthier, but everything is going to impact us besides food, our thought forms, our belief systems. And so if they're not aligned with our truth frequency, we are going to manifest illness, disease, whether it's mental, emotional, or physical. They're all connected and they all contribute to how the physical displays its symptoms. So the
Mhm.
medical industry diagnoses us and puts us on healing protocols that really aren't healing. It's not very holistic, the conventional medicine out there. So I feel, energy healing is looking at the whole person. What are the emotional patternings or ancestral patterns or just programs that are running the system to the point where the body's not thriving. So there's a multiple amount of different categories and facets to this. So instead of like throwing a label and diagnosis, why don't we understand the energy behind it so that we can encourage a breakthrough and a transformation instead of kind of feeding, the illness. And so the breakthroughs that are happening on a personal level are happening on a global level, but because it's a death process, we are seeing the old world die and we're having to move into the new one. But each of us as individuals cannot escape the death process that's going on within ourselves. The things that no longer serve us need to go. And it's very frightening to people. But if we can remember the larger picture, it's the most liberating and beautiful thing, because what's on the other side, once you dump all the stuff that doesn't serve you and you can really connect, the upgrades and the expansion of consciousness and the way one's life experience can change before their eyes in the most beautiful and miraculous ways is really what we're heading towards. But we're caught in all these little traps because of just all the weaponry and mind control that has profiled us through social media to create psychological operations to pretty much target everything under the sun that we've attached ourselves to. So we have to kind of step back and be willing to let go of who we thought we were to make sure that we're being fully who we are to the core, and not be afraid to be ourselves. And to me, that healing process is beautiful and shouldn't, we let's not get upset about the messiness of it, the tears and the anger that come up. And to me, that's how we really heal, is just to be real about it. And for elemental beings, we're going to move through all sorts of stuff. But if we can dialogue with it and understand it, it holds the key to our greater calling. Like depression and anger hold the key. If we can ask it, what do you want? Even pain, what do you want? What are you here for? It tells us a story. It gives us information. It gives us wisdom. And it's the key to our capacity, to move forward. The adversities are a blessing, but society uses it to enslave us and victimize us, and that doesn't need to happen anymore.
Right. I mean, I was feeling that way in New York, which is really so sad, Laura, because when I first got there 20 years ago, I mean, you would walk outside, you'd feel the electricity in the air. It was like this, you would just like dwell in possibilities. Then it started to feel, cut to COVID times, like the walls were closing in, cancel culture and all kinds of crazy stuff. And then God help you if you have a kid out there, right? So it's like I said, okay, talk about healing. I knew in my gut, I said, I have to extricate myself from this because this isn't, I'm not going to grow here any longer. Like I need to, so I knew. And then of course I had, my brother calling me. He's like, you got to get the hell out of there. So I, was able to come to Arizona where things are freer and more open. And there's more of the possibility of healing, because I think there is a psychological operation happening right now, and a lot of people they don't see it unless they actually experience like maybe being in New York or going to Florida, or like really understanding that this is really happening, that we are being so shut down. But I feel like lately we're winning. Do you think so? Like on a higher frequency with what Britain has done, and then the Supreme Court knocking Biden down. Like, do you think that we are in a better place right now? Is evil at the helm or where are we at?
Well, a lot of times because if enough people complain, like we're seeing with people creating accusations of like sexual assault, which on a deeper level is way worse than we can even imagine. We have sort of, people that might be harassed or, I mean, regardless of the degree, none of it's okay, but we have deeper things going on, human trafficking, pedophilia, and all this kind of stuff that they're looking to cover up. So when we see the news, sometimes it feels like we're making progress, but we're only covering stories that barely scratch the surface. And of course, those are important, but I feel like they limit themselves to how much they're going to reveal to the public that they're actually doing something about it. Like, oh yeah, we're taking care of Weinstein. Oh yeah, we're taking care of Epstein. Okay, we're addressing this, but they're still really, really wanting to cover up these deeper layers as best as they can. So if they can address, certain things. And sometimes they create scandals or distractions to cover up. For example, when Kathy O'Brien came out with her book, Transformation of America, she went through MK Ultra mind control programming and was abused by the elites. When her story broke, the Monica Lewinsky and Bill Clinton scandal was all over the headlines. So very often they'll create something to
A
cover up.
diversion.
A diversion. And some of it's genuine and some of it isn't. Some of it's just as much of a false flag as anything that has crisis actors. And it's really hard to know. It's hard to know, is this genuine? Is this legit? Are we really winning? Or is this just a cover and they're just acting like they're taking somebody out just to put somebody else in that's not any better? Like Cuomo, who's this female governor that just came into New York? Is she really was she voted in? Is she really a better candidate? But it looks like they're addressing, Cuomo's crimes. So it seems encouraging. So one has to be kind of careful, but evil's never really at the helm because we're the powers that be. The power of the human spirit is stronger than anything. And it's inevitable that we're going to claim victory because we do that within ourselves, no matter what happens in our lives, what abuses or traumas or illnesses or injuries. There are plenty of reassuring stories where people have healed and recovered from the most unbelievable. And people who have been through these projects and programs that have had all sorts of things implanted in them and all sorts of tactics to really take over their mind to the point where they have altars, and also just, if they can, recover, there's nothing that we can't handle. The power of the human spirit is the strongest, but we have to determine within ourselves if we're going to win this war and not hook in anymore to what's going on in the outer world. I mean, we need to keep our eye on it and feel encouraged, of course, but not be so consumed by it where, we're waiting for the next headline. And of course, I'm not talking about mainstream news, but just like any place we get our information, and just, really focus on our own, inner work. I think there's a lot of encouraging stuff happening beyond kind of false flags or the appearance of, things improving. But most of those things, I don't think we're going to necessarily hear about. Maybe a lot of the researchers, though, are bringing in real information when they say like, oh, okay, my intel told me this, or I heard this, not anything you're going to see in the greater news. But there is a lot of infiltration in some of these intelligence agencies and groups and so-called white hats, or even the Anons in the letter of the alphabet. I don't want to say because they're just all over it. There has been infiltrations. So we're always subject to imposters and the real deal. And the more we focus on connecting with our own truth frequency and doing the inner work, we're going to be able to see through the lies and get to the truth. And I'm working on that. I'm not, it's a work in progress like everybody else. But from what I'm seeing, there are strong signs and indications. I'm just very careful of which stories I attach myself to. I just more feel on the larger picture level that, there's enough positive indication. And where I feel it coming from the most is the victims that are willing to speak up, that are saying, I went through this. This is what has happened. This is what I saw. That to me is way more credible than these are what my insiders have to tell me. And that is where I feel most encouraged, because those voices are getting louder and it's activating people to feel more like they can do the same. They feel like, wow, okay, it's a ripple effect. So I know that was kind of like a long-winded answer, but I just want to point out that sometimes we can get pulled into this feeling like things are getting better. And I'm not saying that, oh, don't believe that because it's not getting better. I'm just saying we still have to make sure we question everything, because they are master manipulators of these psychological operations, knowing that as we're awakening, they want to weaponize that awakening process as best as they can. But anyway, like the victims, they're the ones that are really opening up the gateway to knowing
the truth,
the deepest and deepest of layers. And it's horrific, the crimes against humanity and the abuses.
It is horrific. And, I'm a child of the 70s, right? And it was like, back then you just, no matter what happened, you swept it under the rug. You didn't talk about it. And I think a lot of people just numbed themselves. We weren't talking about it. And, I mean, we have a sister, Dino and I had my older sister who passed, as you know, and the 70s were tough. Kind of like, not so much bravery, I don't know, but I think also mental health is something that we just don't have a handle on. And I think that you talk about truth frequency, and maybe mine is coming out right now, but it was like, you know, some things happened and it was never really dealt with, you know, and there were some things that were swept under the rug. So when I see these women coming out and stepping forward, I just give them, you know, so much, I'm in awe of them, that they would be brave like that, so that we could all, like you said, heal, you know, and expose the underbelly
Right.
to what's going on.
And that's what's so important. Every level of it and layer of it is important to address. The most important thing, though, is that we can just tell the difference between something that's trying to distract us or divert our attention, because I feel like this scamdemic is really, I mean, look at the timing of it. So much began to be revealed. The whole concept of draining the swamp, people really starting to be held accountable was beginning to happen. And this has been such a diversion for people, throwing them into a survival chakra to the point where they can't even think straight. They don't even know what to decide and what to choose. And all that is still going on. All this exposure is still going on, but this is the most unbelievable period because the showdown of forces is at an extreme. But as far as the planetary grid network and cosmic and earthly events and the greater, you know, picture of it all, it's all encoded in nature. It's all encoded in our DNA, and it's all encoded in this being an ascension planet. So the organic ascension is inevitable. It's always there. But the question is, are we in alignment with it? Are we conduits of it? Are we embodying it? Or are we so distracted to the point where we run the risk of being assimilated into AI, which uses our life force and harvests and siphons our life force to battery up these artificial timelines, which we want to be very careful of enabling. I'm not talking about like people like you and me and those that are listening necessarily, but you know, where we buy into the narrative or propaganda to the point where we're enabling a future we don't want, because we feel like we have to battle something that literally just wants to engage us in the battle to the point where we're drained. And so we got to just hold love. It doesn't matter what our differences are. It doesn't matter, you know, if a person's totally asleep or they did something that we're concerned about, we have to take the higher road and hold love and support and compassion no matter what, because the conquer and divide is extreme, and they can target even those that are awakening, so that we, you know, might be like, you know, oh, sheeple, or I can't believe you did this, or where you feel like you have to red pill somebody, and if you can't, you don't want them in your life anymore. And I just hope we can all move to the next level where I love you regardless. Let's just hold the love. And it's totally understandable that you have not been able to see through the lies, and just hold love and support their choices after the fact, once they made them, and do your best to be a resource of information before they make some of these kind of choices. But we don't have to project that, oh, it's all doom and gloom if they do this or don't do that. If we hold a love frequency, to me, that is the substance of alchemy that's going to turn this around and help a lot of compromised people be able to say, wait a second, I didn't see all this, and I can't believe I made these choices. And am I going to be okay? Absolutely. Of course you are.
Okay. So on that note, let me ask you something. I mean, I love that, the love frequency and the alchemy and all of this, but assuming that, especially in my Patriot community, where, you know, we're doing our own healing over here with going toxic free, et cetera, right? Assuming that this is a satanic agenda, okay, and this vaccine is a kill shot, would you agree with that? Let me just ask you that.
I do, but it's not just the shot. It's the mind control. It's the social engineering. It's the toxicity that comes from the conquer and divide, the shame and blame. Oh, well, you know, if you don't get it, then, you know, you're being irresponsible. You know, it's the same kind of stuff we see in the false woke community of, oh, you know, white privilege, or you're racist, or, you know, it's this really like nastiness and this division that's being created. So to me, that's the worst weapon of all. And the jab and things like chemtrails and geoengineering and a lot of the dark weaponry, they deliver these weapons into the system through, you know, nanoparticles and, you know, implants, so that we are drawn into the social engineering agenda. It's a part of, it works in tandem, just as much as healing technologies work in tandem with our willingness to heal. We can't just be healed. We have to be a part of that process. And there are tools that will help us, but ultimately we have to create the shift within, with the help of, you know, different tools, modalities, and like herbs and stuff like that. But On the inverted system, it's the social engineering, the mind control, the psyops, and how that works in tandem with the tools, like the jab and what we've been breathing in. So if we can like release ourselves from one aspect of it, which is the mind control, I feel that the spiritualized body and the awakening person will move out that foreign material because they're not hooked into what that
narrative,
what that is doing to their body, where it's creating an antenna, like a Wi-Fi link to the AI and to what's streaming through. Once a person disengages from the matrix and all the social engineering aspect of it, all the false narratives, and whatever's in the body, I feel it can be transmuted or released, because if it was enough to just blast us with weapons, they wouldn't bother with the mind control. If it was enough to just try and mind control us, they wouldn't bother with the weapons. They need both. So if we can at least break one, I feel that people will be able to recover from the jab. But if they're not willing to kind of awaken and kind of see the bigger picture of what these agendas are all about, it's going to be very, very hard for them to break free because they're invested in it. They believe in their choices. They believe in the lies. That's the most dangerous part.
So we talked a little bit about Trump yesterday, and I think he's done some amazing things, but how do you bridge the gap between, okay, it's the satanic agenda, and yet he pushes that with the vaccine? Do you have an answer for that? Because I'm still trying to understand if that's like some brilliant chess move that I'm missing. I mean, I think a lot of people have that question, right?
I know. Well, I mean, I think it just goes to show that we don't want to give too much power. I mean, I wouldn't say power away, because I don't think the Patriots do that. What I feel Trump ignited is the spirit of the Patriots, and that stands on its own with him or without him. It's something so much deeper. We carry it in our heart and in our soul, experiences from past lives, and just our integrity and our love of freedom and our care for our children, and just our love of, just being able to just be who you are in the world and have constitutional rights and, all that kind of stuff. So, the fact that he supported that, the fact that he really ignited this, I think is the best gift. And one has to say, okay, well, if he's pushing the Operation Warp Speed, okay, that's kind of weird.
Right.
Not in office, he's being censored. What does he have to lose by every moment he gets a chance to speak publicly? He has nothing to lose. Why not just say the truth? So does he not know the truth? Is he somewhat an awakened individual that is missing a few pieces, or has he been threatened? Is he going along with the narrative, but he's kind of like winking in the background, like, okay, I'm saying go for it and take it, and I'm going to take credit, but it's kind of like wink, wink, crossing my hand behind my back, and just listening to his words. He's really saying, take it, But what he constantly really makes clear is that he's not into mandates. He's not into force, he's not into the masking or anything like that. But at the same time, we can't assume that this individual is going to come and save the day. He's compromised in a lot of ways, and he's human. So where we feel he's lacking a bit or not fully sharing the truths he could be sharing is where we'll fill in that spot for him, and still appreciate the good that he's done. So it's not about throwing him under the bus because he's pushing this. It's about appreciating what he is doing and kind of trying to read between the lines and appreciating the fact that he supports choice and freedom. So if he believes in the jab, okay, well, that's his free will right. As long as he supports us having that free will right, he's a good person in my eyes. But a lot of times, this is what I'm afraid of. They can say that they're not into mandates, but gosh, if he was still in office, would he have, maybe changed his mind? Or so it's either because there's threats, or he's compromised and doesn't feel like he has a choice, or he doesn't fully get it and he's being lied to and manipulated, or he's just another side of the same coin of a deep state player. And I truly don't feel he is. I've done his chart, and it doesn't seem that that's the case, but I have to stay kind of flexible. I think he stood for something really powerful and will continue to. But
Laura, what does his, may I ask, like what does his chart reveal? Because this is fascinating to me. You have the astrology tools that I don't have.
Yeah, I mean, astrology is helpful. I don't live, it's nice to be able to refer to, because
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
like, looking at the biology of a person or understanding what's going on inside your body.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of like on a cosmic level, and we're connected to it. So I like medical astrology more than anything else,
Mhm.
understanding how some of these patterns and some of these aspects can impact our health based on our natal chart. But so his chart showed particularly his north node, which isn't a planet. It represents what we're here to step into and integrate on a soul level. And it's kind of like our greater destiny. And sometimes it takes us out of our comfort zone too. So it's not like something that we just kind of get right away. Our life experience helps us to arrive. That's why we have to be very forgiving to each other's past. So even if he has weird stuff in his past, let's look at who he is now and where he's going.
Mhm.
So again, where we feel he's maybe not stepping up in the way he should, that's our job then. So the North Node is conjunct Uranus, and I believe also his sun sign and Mercury. Uranus is the planet that's all about truth, freedom, authenticity, and liberation and revolution. Uranus is such a powerful energy that is very hard to be controlled if you have a strong Uranus energy. And if you're stepping into that frequency, you're going to be all about everything it stands for. And so his sun sign, of course, has to do with his creative essence, and Mercury has to do with speaking. So, I think people are very activated when they listen to him at speeches and just, wow, okay. And I think that was all genuine. His chart shows that those aspects of him are genuine. But
Mhm.
does he sort of lose his space sometimes and not fully able to occupy it completely and totally? Well, that's very much what happens with the North Node. You're integrating it, but it doesn't mean you're not going to fall back and slip and go back into old patterns or thought forms. It's something you have to continue to work on and continue to step into. And it really just kind of depends on the person, or if
Mhm.
there's a lot of retrogrades or people from your past are showing up, or people coming in and Eisenhower dealt with this, just a lot of people that appeared to be friends that weren't
Yeah.
friends, they were the enemy. And he's surrounded by that, just like every president is, or legit leader. And we've seen a lot of the presidency and the change with the CIA and the different grooming programs that they've had, but I don't feel Trump is a part of that. A lot of people that have recovered from things like MK Ultra and SRA say he was never involved. We were never told he was involved. We never saw him. So that's a huge deal. Huge.
Yeah.
That's a huge deal. So anyway, his chart shows a lot of betrayal in his social sphere. It shows a lot of hurt. But what he's stepping into and what his greater destiny is something that we should all feel good about. But because of free will, it doesn't guarantee that he's going to totally embrace that and step into it, because the North Node's tricky in that way. We can be easily distracted and diverted from our greater destiny. So we have to always consider that and just hold the best space we can for each other as well, so that we can help each other be the best of ourselves.
Right.
Not be in judgment or, just this battle amongst ourselves and within ourselves, because we want to support us stepping into that, higher potential. And it's better to encourage that with one another than to make it worse and belittle a person, because, that can discourage them. And that's a distraction as well. So all the things that pull us away, we don't want to be the type of person that
It's
just
judgy.
like, yeah, or just with anybody's voice, or like
That
thinking like,
doesn't
you got the
benefit
jab,
anybody.
like, let's hold a better space for them, that everything is fixable and healable. Why cast a projection?
Laura, I totally believe that. I
Yeah.
do totally believe that. I want to tap into that positivity and joy. By the way, was your great grandfather also a painter? I feel like I read that Dwight D Eisenhower liked to paint. Was he a painter?
Yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, he had this huge creative side, right?
Yeah.
Which obviously you have, being, you.
If I can't sleep, I just doodle at night, and it's just kind of like, they're just kind of, I don't know, but it's like anything. The more I do it, I'm like, okay, that looks a little bit better than the one before. So it's a nice release, because sometimes like typing and writing, then it has to be, you got to have the right grammar. And with art, you can just be a lot more messy and wild, which is easier for me.
Yeah, I don't have that talent. My daughter does, though.
Oh, you do. You have every talent.
Oh, not in the drawing realm. No, not in the painting, but other things. I love to get up on stage and kind of reveal, people's behaviors and hold a mirror up to society, and And I love everything that we're talking about right now and sort of tuning into certain frequencies. I do believe what you think about, you bring about. One of my favorite things to do is go backstage and just get myself in a certain mindset and visualize my scene, and drive it. So I do think that we are, the captain of our ship, and we need to just empower ourselves and, tap into your personal magic and your joy. And then you'll be a much happier person, I guess, if you will. But for the people who are not believing any of this, what would you say, and how do we free ourselves from the parasitic system? Other than, okay, you turn your TV off, you start tuning into alternative media, you're detoxifying, you go out in nature. What are some other things that you would say that we should do to free ourselves?
I think we need flexibility and be careful of our ego attachments, or the things that we overly identify with, to the point where we hold on to it so tight that if anybody challenges it, we're just going to push them away. No, I can't see that. I don't want to look at that. It challenges me too much. We have to be a little bit more fluid and open to the transformational cycles and the releasing of things that don't serve us, and having the humility and ability to listen to somebody and witness it without feeling the pressure to actually have to believe it, but we don't have to disbelieve it either. Why can't we just be brave enough to listen and consider it and allow it to be a part of the way we process and take our time with it? Especially a lot of these people that are telling, stories, you can feel their sincerity, but sometimes people are sincere and they believe in what they're saying, but it might not be accurate. But that's more about like maybe sharing facts versus going through some kind of trauma or experience that you're not making it up. Even if you believe in what you're saying, it's like you just can't make that kind of stuff up. The satanic agenda wants to make it a thing where, false memory implants, or it's like a disorder to recall these kind of memories in order to dismiss or smear the people that are coming forward. Well, there are too many people coming forward. There's too much evidence. So it's about listening, having an open enough mind, not feeling like you have to necessarily make a choice, but have an open enough mind, and then, keep looking deeper if you need to be convinced. And for some, it doesn't matter how much proof you have, it'll never be enough. Where are the photographs? Then you have photographs. Oh, those were photoshopped. Oh, that's not legit. There's nothing you can possibly show them that's good enough.
Right.
So we can
I know, like the whole
evidence,
Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein, like, when is that list ever going to be revealed? Like, when is this or did I miss something?
Well, I mean, I think that is the ultimate story breaking, that is preparing people for all the other stories, the thousands of stories that are going to be known about what's really going on in underground bases underneath the Getty Museum, and underground bases that have to do with alien races and darker agendas and alliances, and hybridization programs and breeding programs. I mean, it's just like this is a start, and it's going to be a lot to correct this inverted system to where all this stuff is exposed. It's going to be so much. And with any death, rebirth, alchemical transformation cycle, not everybody's going to maintain the physical. It's going to be too much. So we're going to see a lot of casualties and a lot of death, but let's not fear death, and let's not worry too much about it. Of course, we're going to mourn and grieve, but the veil between life and death is lifting in a lot of ways. So this death cycle of the old world dying and the programming's being broken, many of us will thrive and survive, and many will kind of be on the fence, and we need to support them and help them. So the best thing to do is support yourself through this. Don't overwhelm yourself too much, but be willing to accept that everything you were taught might not
be true,
but appreciate all the skills that you developed and the way, the good that did come out of it. It's sort of like, if a relationship needs to end, and if it ends in an amicable way, or even not in an amicable way, can we rescue the treasures, not just of what's dormant within us, but rescue the treasures of our past and the things we're letting go of, so that we're not so ashamed of agreeing to something that is a lie, to the point where we can't accept the lie and we live in denial and we keep our head in the sand. So people are going to have to just be like, okay, maybe I was misguided, and maybe, but then take that skill and talent and just reapply it to something that's got a greater foundation of truth, and it's flowing with nature and cosmic and natural law, versus the inverted system and reward system that literally just wants you to be a pawn to take advantage of exploited people for the sake of money. And there's too many well-intentioned people that aren't doing their profession for that reason. Doctors and teachers that are really there because they care. And those are the people, and a lot of them are standing up right now, but those are the people that are going to create a ripple effect, so that everybody that are in those kind of professions will say, I'm right there with you know, that doctor or expert or teacher that's being banned or censored or ostracized.
That is so
and
wrong.
It's going to grow and build, and then the unified field's only going to grow and build, and it's going to help everybody. And that to me is what's at the helm, is that is going to continue to grow while everything gets exposed. And even if it seems like the dark is still at the helm, really it's not. It's just appearing that way. I don't feel that that's actually
that's not the case.
Yeah.
Well, you know, speaking of which, if I may ask, what are your thoughts on the afterlife and death? I had a dear friend of mine pass recently, and I mean, I personally believe we come here, we're energy, and we're moving on to something else, right? I do believe that. What are your personal thoughts on that? My friend who passed was just a very scientific, practical man, very intelligent. You know, he built planes, he bought a plane from someone, and lo and behold, he said, you know, once more into the deep blue sky, and he never came back. His plane crashed. The very day that I found out, and he's someone who would just say, Patricia, you're so ridiculous. There's no afterlife. I don't believe in it. And it's bullocks, you know, because he was British. It's complete bullocks. You know, I wouldn't, you know, if a shark ate me in the ocean, I wouldn't blame the shark. The shark's just being the shark. When we die, that's it. You're dead. Forget it. And I'm like, oh my God, Steve, that's so incredibly dismal. Meanwhile, the day when he died and I found out that he fell out of the sky, I went out into the backyard. Never seen this before, Laura. I'll probably never see it again. But a little plane that looked like his flew right over my house. He hooked a left turn, and it was like he was having fun in the sky, you know, to the point where I like waved, and I felt like it was Steve saying goodbye to me, like he's on to his next adventure. I swear to God on my life. There are certain messages that I've gotten from my sister and, you know, loved ones where I'm like, can't deny that. I mean, I have a pretty strong compass for these things, I think. But what are your thoughts on that? You know, as we try to navigate these times, and, you know, people, you talk about living and dying and shedding certain beliefs, or maybe this great awakening. What do you think happens when we die? I feel like asking you that question.
I feel it's gonna not just be the same for everybody. I know some people talk about, oh, you know, if you die and you start to move down the tunnel and you see the light at the end of the tunnel, be careful of it, because it's false light and it's going to recycle you, you know, back into, you know, being born again. So, I mean, okay, there's that. Okay, well, that's not going to be the experience for everybody. And if we do come back, maybe there's patterns that we weren't able to break, or things that we weren't able to accomplish that we need to come back and relive to a certain degree. So that, I mean, why do we keep coming back? We keep coming back because eventually we're going to get into that 0 point unified field. We're going to break down the patternings, and we're not going to have to keep reliving things through different storylines or different personas in order to get the final message that really connects us with true source, divine source, the divine blueprint within ourselves, and the true God nature that we carry, without it being an ego attachment. It's something we're able to receive and embody and share with others from a space of love and integrity.
You do obviously believe in reincarnation.
Yes. I mean, we have died so many times. Why do we come together? Why do we even have soulmates? Why do we remember people? Why do we remember events? Or why do we have an affinity towards certain locations, or we pick up on a certain language? Why are some kids able to play the piano at the age of 4?
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
right.
And that's, I mean, I went to a clairvoyant institute for 2 years, and I kind of stumbled upon it. It wasn't really like part of my, like, it just kind of happened. And we did past life readings all the time. I did readings literally every day, all the time. And it was just, it became so normal that it's so funny to even, you know, kind of question it. But for people that it's just like so far removed, there are some really great docuseries that are just incredible. The Ghost Inside My Child is a really good one, because you get real skeptical parents, right? That don't believe in reincarnation, don't believe in the afterlife, that have children that are recalling their past life to the point where when the parent looks it up, they are finding the dates and the information and the names of who their children used to be. So they're like, there's nothing I can do but accept this. And then ones that are like, I survived, or, you know, life after death, when people are telling their stories where they were flatlining, And I know David's gone through this, and
Yes.
you know, where you're dead and then you come back. So and people have experiences, and DMT really gets activated when we go into that sort of death zone. And to me, it's no different than, how can we doubt that? That's like saying when we fall asleep at night, we don't dream.
Right.
So when your eyes are closed and it's dark at first, is it that's just an ending and that's just it? And you
I know, and it's peculiar to me because a lot of people would say, well, I'm a Christian, this is a one-shot deal, you better live a good life or you don't go to heaven. And I've always been like, okay, well, that's interesting. I do pray, and I pray, I say, and Christ is my savior, but I'm like, how come between the ages of 1 and 5, I knew all this information, and my mom was freaked out. She's like, you knew certain songs about my grandfather, about her dad. She was convinced her dad reincarnated. I knew things about mechanics that no child will know. I knew things about cemeteries, factual thing. I was like, this was the Chinese cemetery. I knew historical things. I was way too young. I said, someone cut my head off. I told them how I was running from an Indian. I mean, I had these crazy stories. Then, and my dad said at night I would wake up and I would be speaking Chinese, and they were freaked out by me. They're like, oh my God, we have the weird child here. Then at like age 6, it was wiped clean. That was it. And so what is that moment where I just was wiped clean, and then I don't know what, did I just become my Trisha?
I think sometimes it's almost too much to be able to be in this physical plane and move forward if so much is pouring back. And that happened to me, where I was so overwhelmed by my past lives and everything I was processing. I couldn't barely function. I couldn't be here in the now moving forward. And so sometimes, it's sort of, we just kind of put the pause button on. Doesn't mean it's gone for good, just so that we can just kind of live. And that actually was the stories that the parents were telling about their children. After the child processed it, there came a certain point where they were able to let go and move on with their lives, because it was so all consuming, to the point where, in even ones that had been on the Titanic, the kid was like obsessed with just drawing picture after picture after picture. And the parents are just like, they don't know what to do. And you can feel it's such a worthwhile series.
I'm definitely watching that.
So I feel, yes, I am open to the way religion translates all this, but I don't dismiss the rest of it either. I kind of appreciate all this diversity, but like, how can we harmonize this diversity and have an open enough mind to see a much, much vaster terrain here? And I feel, okay, there is kind of like heaven and hell as far as a mindset. So we go into hell all the time in the physical plane. When we go into the dark night of the soul, or we're looking at our inner demons, or the programmings that have compromised us, or even the things that we did that we might be like, I can't believe I did that, and I like feel so bad about it. And we have to kind of walk through hell to purify and to resolve that shadow side, so that the dark can turn into the soil again, so that we can plant seeds in that darkness, and we can have the original kind of darkness that works with the light. But we have to face the darkness. We have to face the shadow to purify it and cleanse it and clear it of contaminants and things that we haven't, been able to look at. So we can have heaven on earth, so that we can experience purification and enter that kingdom of heaven, and that integration of polarity of masculine and feminine as well, so that we experience sacred union and true love. So whether it's in this physical body or when we go into the afterlife, we're still contending with the same thing. So a lot of people have a life review before they die, or after they die and they're in the afterlife. It doesn't mean like, either maybe some things are wiped, but anything that's like needs to be resolved or cleared for the intent and the purpose of what the soul wants to experience, it's all there. And even if we keep coming back, we might have an agreement to create heaven on earth, to learn our lessons enough so that we don't live a traumatic and hellish kind of incarnation, because maybe we've been there, done that. And I think our agreement to keep being physicalized is to learn and master that, to restore the tree of life template and live heaven on earth. But in the afterlife and in our dreams, when we dream at night, and in the way we process past lives, we're all working on this greater self-mastery, so that in the physical and non-physical, we can go to heaven, so to speak, but we can experience it in the physical too. And to me, that's the difference between being in an abusive, narcissistic relationship with somebody versus having your soulmate and true partner, that you experience like what it means to really be in love. And the bliss that one feels when your heart is really appeased and fulfilled is, to me, also a form of heaven. And I think there's something about the fact that we're biologically wired to want to have partnership. And I think that's where a lot of our growth lies, and we get to know ourselves. Like, are we giving our power away? Why are we letting this person hurt us? Well, we're in a relationship to the system too. And we have to divorce the imposters so that we can have a true love experience with the greater system that is organic and connected to nature, cosmic and natural laws, to where we can build community together. We don't need this parasitic matrix. And to me, this is what we're going through, and why God wins, because our higher self wins, nature wins, and our capacity to completely move away from that and work together to build something substantial.
That is so beautiful, Laura. I love that so much. You just reminded me of I was reading about a matriarchal community in, I think, Kenya. These women who had suffered at the hands of men being abused and whatnot. And they went and started their own village, their own community, and there's no men allowed there. You know? And they're loving themselves. I'll get you the name. It's in Kenya, and it's this matriarchal community of women who just said, no, we've had enough. We don't need this. No men are allowed, but, they're trying to heal and grow on their own, I don't know why you just reminded me of that, but
I think it's an important thing, if it's important to kind of step back and,
yeah,
because, the divine masculine is awakening, and their programming is very different than the feminine. We've dealt with Saturn moon matrix and these dark technologies that have created this imbalance, to where masculine energy has been programmed to not cry, to not connect with their inner feminine, to go off to war, get their lymph blown off. So that's something that needs major healing. And, putting up walls, or just kind of like, the conquest, like, oh, look how many women I can have. But if a woman does it, all these double standards. And then for the woman, the programming is, you're worthless. You shouldn't be listened to, like, just kind of like shut the wisdom of the goddess energies, and that, the creative power of the feminine, which exists within men, has its own set of challenges, of course. And that's why we talk about just, being empowered as women, and and eventually the divine masculine and feminine within ourselves is going to be able to work together. And but I can see why some people would want to remove themselves, because I think the growth periods for the masculine is a little bit, and I don't want to say behind, but they do say that, as far as the way we mature, that women tend to move a little faster. And I think it's because we have babies, or we birth, and even if we're not able to have babies, we have that nurturing instinct. And we have to be empathic and sensitive and intuitive in order to be able to nurture and take care of our, whereas a man can just be like, all right, if I'm a schmuck, I can just leave.
Yeah.
You can't. So I think it's created a lot of negative behavior patterns that we need to protect ourselves from, until they're willing to step up to the plate and embrace their own divine masculine, which is more the protector, more the guardian warrior. And that could take a while for it to be in greater numbers, but it's so encouraging to see a lot of men really embodying that, to the point where I'm like, damn.
Wow. Yeah. So do you think in this timeline, as a woman, do you feel that we're becoming more valued, or undervalued? I kind of think it's both. I think that we don't value ourselves enough. And I saw Bill Burr, the comedian Bill Burr, recently, and he drove home a really relevant point. I thought he said, listen, there's no question, you women are smarter. You're definitely smarter. You're healers. You're all of those things. He said, the problem is you don't support each other. And there's a lot of animosity and jealousy. You'll never get it together. Whereas a guy, can just, I've seen Nino in the past beat someone up, and then 10 minutes later they're at the bar talking. And
I remember telling those stories. It's so funny.
You know what I mean?
I love that you're bringing all this up. And yes, women need to heal amongst each other. We need to get down more to the sacredness of what it means to be, in a female body. We have our inner masculine as well, but we have to support each other. I mean, women have such an incredible connection and relationship, but the societal programs have really made it difficult, because the false programs, whether it be, women don't really have wisdom, and men, we make the decisions. We're the ones that are presidents. We're the ones that are priests, and women just are kind of in the background making babies. Okay, there's that. But then there's sort of the more program version of the so-called empower woman, which is almost like the seductress, where everything is about image, everything is about like everything that you can do to
serious
be wanted and be like be in that seduction game. But then when you draw that attention and somebody is in your space and sexually harassing you, and then you're complaining about it. I'm not saying that you're asking for it. I'm not saying you deserve it, but like, let's stop like putting this stuff in a healing masculine's face and being victimized by it. Why don't we, I'm not saying like let yourself go and like don't, like feel good about yourself when you look in the mirror, but are you looking to seduce? Are you looking to hook somebody in to feel like you have value and worth? Because that very vibration is why women compete. They're like, oh, well, I want to win the guy, or I'm going to steal your husband because I feel powerful in knowing that, you're not enough for him. And I'm actually like getting a
but
high
you know what, Laura,
he's willing to betray you because I'm so
yeah,
happy or something. It's like terrible. The toxic
yeah,
emails are so nasty.
so awful. I know, but you know what I find terrifying is this narcissistic period where we've entered with our electronics, where I feel like every time I go on to Instagram or whatever, I mean, we're all guilty of it, but it's like, wow, it's like this obsessive thing, where it's all about the selfies. But speaking of the seductress, I mean, that goes back to Adam and Eve. It's kind of this conditioning where it's like, is that the role that we play? Is that, do you know what I mean? But
I think
how do we de-zombie these kids
right. Well,
and to get off the electronics and stop with the selfies?
Well, I think it has its place, right? It's like we see with animals in nature or birds. You have your mating dance, you're showing your feathers and you're just doing the mating dance. But is that a 24/7
thing,
like all year long? I think once you have an affinity towards somebody and you start to date, you maybe want to impress them or feel good about yourself or feel like, okay, there's chemistry here, or I want to invite this person into my sexual energies. But when you're just showing that to everybody, then you're going to get a lot of people in your space and then complain about it, or you're going to be in competition. You're just going to want to, just get the likes or get the attention or just be like, and that just doesn't do good for anybody. So it does have its place, but like, what about the sacredness of love and union and sexuality? Can we like preserve that and then let those other characteristics and aspects sort of emerge more organically than be sort of the front that we carry to the point where it doesn't feel safe? Like, I don't want to go to Burning Man and festivals with a partner because it doesn't feel safe. It's like, it literally, and I don't mean to use that as an example. I appreciate the creativity in that, but like, we're literally like, there's a stigma attached. Oh, you're just jealous. You're insecure. It's like, no, this is like we're in a war and there's a war on consciousness. And some of it just feels really icky. Yeah. And I just want to protect this. And so it's like a star seed going through the school system. Oh, you just have a learning disability because you don't want to sit still in class. So it's very easy to throw these labels on somebody who really, cares about the sacredness of union. But at the same time, these programs can cause sort of the more dark side of jealousy and competition. So I'm not saying that word doesn't apply to those darker mindsets, but I think if we have our attention on healing this, there's so much we can do. There's so far that we can go. And I feel part of it's a programming, but part of it is also, just encouraging that to take the helm when we express ourselves versus encouraging people to really get to know us and respect us for who we are. And I don't have any judgments on how people choose to run their energy in that way, but I'm just very like discerning and careful as well. And I do see that it is a bit of an epidemic, like you're saying, with the selfies and the Hollywood and the magazines and just the way we're raised. It's like, we're being given Barbie dolls with one Ken. Yes. Why aren't we? Can you imagine having like a doll though that gets pregnant and has babies and has a garden and has a family, or like a woman warrior, like. Right. Instead, it's just a bunch of blonde,
Right. Where is the Amazon Barbie doll?
Yeah, or like the pregnant Barbie doll, or like the gardener, the
real life Barbie doll,
or the medicine woman, or like maiden mother crone, like these much more realistic and organic aspects. And same with the man. Yeah. And same with Barbie and Ken with their pink freaking like penthouse and their stupid freaking pink car. And this kind of stuff is literally cast upon our children to the point where when we grow up, it's very hard to have healthy relationships because we're conditioned to think that success is, knocking everybody over and winning, or, getting, the man, or getting all the way, it's just so shallow and superficial.
That is so shallow.
I know.
It bothered me. We need to support each other more, heal more. I think get off the electronics, and I don't know, rent a kayak, spend some time in nature,
and laugh and just share stories.
Yeah, exactly.
And I felt that with you instantly. I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like I've known her for so long, and just your frequency, your truth, your genuine light in your heart, and just
Oh,
everything.
Laura, thank
I was just like, boom. I'm like, I'm
Yeah,
so grateful.
I was
Like,
so happy. I know
Laura's
when we
really
finally
shifted my world. I'm like,
connected.
thank God she's in my life now. Sorry. But
Me too. I feel the same way. You feel more like a sister for sure. Last question, because I know you probably have. By the way, I'm totally going to watch that Ghost Inside My
and
Child.
then I want to interview you. I have a lot of questions for you. And I know we wanted to kind of do more of a back and forth, but I do
Sure.
kind of have long-winded answers. So
No, it's beautiful. I'm fascinated right now. Honestly, I'm fascinated. Let me ask you something. Some of your favorite female wisdom leaders, or books that you gravitate to. Just two or three of them. Like, who would that be? And I know I'm kind of making this a little more feminine, this show, but
we are women now.
I feel the need to do that. Yeah. And also I've had some interviews lately with some women where I'm like, what is going on here? Like, why aren't women valuing themselves, loving themselves? And if there's like, one lesson I could give my daughter, it's just, love yourself, love others, but be self-sufficient, be able to take care of yourself. So you don't have to feel like you have to rely on somebody, for whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like, and get into a healthy relationship, first of all, with herself. But some women, wisdom healers, like who would you say that you kind of gravitate to, if there were a couple of them just off the top of your head?
Right. And there's something to just like almost being beyond just, being female, but in this like sacred union embodiment, like where the masculine and feminine within yourself are merged, and that greater circulation between the right and left brain, and just the electric and magnetic, is really circulating, and that greater understanding of this unification within ourselves, while still, being comfortable in who you are. There's nothing wrong with being transgender, but when it's being pushed on our kids and it becomes sort of like a movement, or like something, then it's really teaching, like, don't be comfortable in your body, and maybe you should identify as something different. I can understand that some people legitimately have those challenges, and that's should be totally accepted and understood, but it shouldn't be an agenda. So I feel the people I gravitate towards like understand these deeper programmings, understand the negative alien agenda, and also understand our greater potential and what this is all about as far as who we are as spiritual beings, without having to get that spirituality from outside of us. It's something we cultivate through our own life experience and gaining wisdom. So energeticsynthesis.com, Lisa Renee, really good friend, unbelievable information, and just so strong and just like dedicated to her mission. And then of course the archetypes, I mean, all the goddess archetypes and energies, like Mary Magdalene and the Sophionic body of Mother Gaia, and the true history of our planet Earth. I mean, that's the ultimate badass female. And we all are connected with it. Now you're like one of my favorite women, and just, anybody who's willing to just be raw and truthful, and just able to have these more meaningful kind of conversations. But as far as, I mean, I've met a lot of awesome healers and people that, work with herbs, very, who live close to the earth. They might not be well known, and I can't like bring up their names, but I've met them along the way. And it's just like, yes, this is where it's at. And embracing all these different phases that we go through, and people who live outside of the programming and that are very just, earthy and cosmic and authentic.
Yes.
Because there are new age deceptions, and there is sort of, some falsities connected to some people because of how we're profiled and targeted, and there's false movements and this and that. And I don't have judgment towards those women. I just hope they, come back to center and don't give their power away to those things.
Yeah.
But I love the energy of women and mothers, and I would say there's not a whole lot of like actresses or anybody out there. I think anybody who's willing to take a stand and be brave. Kathy O'Brien, one of my greatest heroes. Anybody like that, Laura Worley, who's similar, and people that are willing, to be a whistleblower and stand by what's right. To me, that's a true spiritual warrior.
Absolutely.
Mel K, I adore, and just there's so many incredible women.
So many.
And I've made so many good female friends. Dr. Charnel. I mean, just it's just like you don't have to waste your time with the BS. It's just like there's a soul connection, and
so much beauty to tap into. And Laura, with that, and on that note, like, thank you so much for sharing your love, your energy, your wisdom, your guidance. And I just adore you. And I would love to do another show with you, and we'll get back on. And tell my audience again, like, where to find you.
Okay, awesome. Oh, and I just want to say also the goddess energy in Avalon.
Yes.
And yeah, just all the different archetypes and energies: Demeter, Persephone, Rhiannon, Dannon, you know, Bridget, Guinevere, you know. Okay,
Yeah.
so where to find me?
I love it. No, I love it. This is exactly what I wanted, Laura. I'm so glad that we went in this direction, because I just had a feeling that that this was the right direction to go in.
Oh, and we could talk forever. So, and I'm going to interview you next. I have so many questions for you. But where you can find me, everybody, is cosmicgaia.org. On my homepage, you can find my Telegram channel. So definitely subscribe to my Telegram. And I keep everything pretty much updated there. I have my YouTube, Laura Eisenhower, and Facebook, Laura Eisenhower. Both of these accounts have been shut down in the past. So it's good to get on Telegram and just keep up with my website in case anything like that happens again. And that's about it.
That's about it. Thank you, Laura, the wonderful, beautiful Laura Eisenhower.
Thank you.
We will talk soon.
Okay, for sure.
Okay.
Thanks for having me. Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.